Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 6:30 on Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. I'm Councilmember Kippett. I'll be presiding over the meeting tonight because of the absence of Mayor Short and Mayor Pro Tem Hodges. This time, I'd like to offer the invocation, if you'd please join me in prayer. Almighty God, everlasting, whose glory is in the entire world, we ask your guidance and mercy upon our nation and all its citizens so that they may dwell in security and peace. Grant to the President of the United States, the Governor of Texas, and all in authority, especially our mayor and this city council, the wisdom and strength to know and to do what is right and proper. Fill us with your love so that we seek the truth to guide our actions, to ensure that each one taken benefits all of our citizens. Bless and protect our first responders as they protect us. Keep them safe as they go about their duties and return them home intact to their families. All in this we ask in your name. Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Westbrook.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated. The rules of decorum are in effect as they are for every council meeting. Thank you very much. Do we have any citizen comments at this time? Okay, we'll go ahead and, did we have any emailed into us, Shelley? Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item, number 5.1, consider approval of the September 8th, 2020 City Council meeting. Is there a motion?
Acting Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we consider the approval of the September 22nd council meeting minutes as written.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay? Minutes pass. Item 6, moving on to the meat of the agenda. Item 6.1, Fire Station Design Build Update and Related Matters. This item has been requested by Ryan Rossborough, who is our owner's representative for the construction of the fire department. Welcome.
And staff. Thank you all for having me here tonight. Wanted to just give everyone a brief update on where we stood with the design of the new fire station project. If you recall at the last meeting, at the last minute, I sent in some floor plans and some renderings. Unfortunately, because I was late getting those in, they weren't able to be included in the packet. So tonight we have included those in your packet. In addition to that, we've included a copy of the current budget where it stands, and I'll be updating you in this format from time to time because this is what you're used to seeing from the initial adoption of the budget. But essentially, the spreadsheet that I'll be delivering to you all for budget updates kind of recaps what the approved budget amount was for each line item, and then what the current committed amount is for each line item. So you'll see the items that I've shaded in green are items that you actually have contracted now. So we have that number locked down. When I shade in a number, that pretty much means it's locked in and it's not going to move. So you're right on budget with your construction cost and with our contract, which are really the only two contracts you had prior to this meeting, at last month's meeting. Now, at this meeting, the only thing that's changed on your budget is you've got an approved geotech contract, which we had budgeted $6,000 for that, and you see it came in at $4,800. So we're right where we should be on that. So the geotech has taken place. They came out and took their borings. We're kind of waiting on pins and needles right now to get that report back to see what the findings are with relation to the soil and the foundation requirements. We hope to have a preliminary report on that next week. So that's where we stand with the budget. Everything I think looks good in accordance with what was approved by City Council. And if you have any questions on the budget, we'll move on to the next item. Okay. So another document that you've got included in there is it's a copy of the floor plan. Again, this was presented last month, but because the late hour at which we got it, it wasn't in the packet. So nothing has changed here from what you saw last month. Simply, we've got a site plan shown there with how the building is proposed to lay out on the site at this time. Now, of course, that's pending. We still have to get TxDOT approval on the exit from the station onto 550. So there's some things that still have to be done to make the site plan final. And the floor plan has not changed since you saw it last month either. So these are both static items. I just wanted you to have it in your packet to refresh where we stood on that. Any questions on the site plan or the floor plan?
Nope.
Okay. The next item we've got included in there is a rendering, a color rendering of the elevation of the building. Again, this is just for FYI, where we stand currently on the visual look of the station, what we anticipate it's going to look like. So again, the building is intended to match the facade that you have here at City Hall so that everything looks contiguous and looks like it belongs in a single complex. Of course, got the iconic red fire engine doors there. Looks like a fire station.
Ryan,
Yes, ma'am.
can we discuss the little building on the right?
Yes, ma'am. Glad to.
Is that something we could take the money from on that area and put it somewhere else?
So that's a great question. They've got this included in their cost now. And so it's one of those things that when you, let me see, how do I phrase this? When you start watering down a building after you have your contract signed, you're never going to get dollar for dollar back in your pocket, if that makes sense. Because the competition at that point has kind of been removed from the bidding process because you've already got your contract underway. So with all change orders, anytime you do a deductive change order, you get a little less back than what you paid for it up front. And anytime you do an add change order, you pay a little more than you would have paid up front. So, so I say that to say you could probably eliminate all that and build it into the building where you would think it would save you money, and they would probably only offer you back pennies on the dollar. So I say that to say that is a nice feature, and it's included already in your contract price. So I don't think that there would be much to gain by removing it at this point. That's just my 2 cents.
I'm just thinking of, I think we've kind of discussed that amongst ourselves. Maybe we just didn't get that to you specifically.
No, we definitely talked about it, but like I said, the savings that well, first of all, they would have to redesign it to be able to offer you what that credit would be, which wasn't an option at the time because we were up against, trying to get the contract executed. So if you would like us to move forward with, seeing what it would cost to change that up, we can certainly do it. It's not a...
Can we do it for just grins and giggles?
Sure,
See?
absolutely.
And also, I'd like to find out, what would the upkeep be on that? In other words, will it need, maybe be needing painted, or, it's kind of hard to see.
No, ma'am, I believe that's all masonry. That's an all masonry structure. So attached to the building, we're standalone. I think the maintenance is probably going to be 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But I think, after we all talked about it, I know at length, basically, again, we were up against a time crunch. But basically, the message that I heard from SpeedFab was, hey, we can redesign it to be part of the structure, but then we're going to have to beef up some of the structural members at the front of the building to support that and this, that, and the other. So it may not be worth it at the end of the day, but they're happy to entertain that if we would like to have that discussion.
I think it would be beneficial just to be able to, if we don't have it, just to see what the results of what our requirement would
Sure.
be. Just
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, we can ask them to present some options with some deductive alternates at the next meeting.
Because it just appears
Ryan?
ornamentational.
Yes.
We make sure that if we do look at changing that, then we're going to have to implement the cost for monument sign. Because
That's where I was going.
takes place at the department number, the city coaches and all that.
Right.
So if we take that away, then now we're going to have to look at putting in a monument sign, which obviously you can look at, see, but the cost would be a little
Yep,
That's something we gotta look at too.
Yep. yep. But it would be great if you could just look at it and then say that's
Sure.
not, it's, too cost prohibitive or what.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Chief. That was another, the architect, when we talked about this, he made it a point that the reason I put this in as an architect is because it says, I'm a fire station, this is where you come in. This is the entry point. Because people that are trying to get to the front door only have moments sometimes, so it stands out and lets them know where the entrance is.
Is that a metal roof?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that wood on that?
Yes, ma'am. In the rendering, that's wood, yes, ma'am.
Looks nice.
It's very nice, yes, ma'am. So we'll ask SpeedFab to bring back those options at the next meeting for discussion.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, and then the last document that we've got here, just an updated, what we call the strawman schedule, the master schedule here. This is updated as well from what the board had previously seen and previously approved. And we'll update on this. We'll add milestones to it as we get those milestones from the contractor. But basically, I've taken the previous schedule and just stricken out those items that have already been decided or surpassed. The items in yellow indicate those items which will require council action. So our intent was to come back to City Council in November with what we're calling a 90% set. So the 100% set won't actually be done until probably the end of November. But we wanted to bring you the 90% set so we didn't have to wait a whole nother month to finish that 100% set. So the difference between a 90% set and a 100% set is going to be, the circuitry is going to be nailed down. The minute details and the specifications are going to be nailed down. So nothing, I think, at a council level that, would change drastically the look or the feel or the functionality of the building. So our intent is to come back November 10th with that final design approval. Assuming that we get, our preliminary geotech report in the next week or so, and we have good news from that. So I've also indicated there off to the side of those milestones how they've changed since you last approved them. So the good news is that everything has basically been accelerated a month. So that's great news because the City Council has taken action on some things and because SpeedFab Create has done a phenomenal job getting us documents and updating. We think that instead of a Christmas present in 2021, we think you're going to have a Thanksgiving feast in your new station would be ideal. So that's the goal at this point, is to get you in there by Thanksgiving.
And is it, will this be delayed if we have you come back on the 27th of October with the pros and cons of having that tower or not?
I don't think so. I think it's a detail that won't actually be constructed for another 4 or 5 months. So they'll have some time to get it massaged into the plans and everything.
Okay.
It's not a critical path item.
Any other questions?
Any questions on the schedule? Okay, and so these are documents that we'll be bringing you, regularly to update. If there's something additional that you'd like to see that you feel like you're not seeing, please let us know. We're glad to get that for you and make sure that everybody's comfortable and there's transparency and you're happy with the direction we're going.
And just so all the citizens out there know, this is on our city website, this information.
Right.
So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
y'all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 6.2, presentation followed by council discussion with Land Solutions SV LLC, which is the Sonoma Verde Developer, the Public Improvement District PID Administrator, City Financial Advisor, and related parties regarding the upcoming bond issuance for Sonoma Verde PID Area Number 3, including but not limited to process for bond issuance, timeline, road maintenance issues, all phases of Sonoma Verde, construction activity, reimbursements, and donations to the city and related matters. This time we'd like to introduce Mary Petty to take us through this issue.
Good evening, council and staff. Do I click just by looking over there? I'm not sure. Is that okay?
I'll be your clicker.
Sorry.
That's okay, just glance this way.
That was a long introduction, but what I'd like to do is go through the presentation about Sonoma Verde. This is specifically related to improvement area number 3. And so you have representatives here from the developers and the Developers Council in case there are questions. They'd be willing to answer it. But primarily the first part of this is discussion to make sure we can answer all your questions. Just a reminder on PIDs, the council has the authority to create them under Chapter 372 of the Local Government Code. And the improvements under those PIDs are paid through assessments. Those assessments are not property taxes, but they're fixed amounts that are collected via the Rockwall County Appraisal District. So they are placed on property tax records, but they are a fixed lien. They don't change and they don't increase over time. So even though the value of the home may go up, that assessment remains the same. And assessments can be prepaid at any time, which means they can be paid off early. And then once they've been paid in their annual installments for whatever the term was, they cease. So unlike property taxes that continue on until the city or the taxing entity changes their tax rate or reduces it, these assessments get paid off. So again, just big picture reminders, this is not a separate political subdivision. It's not like a MUD that has certain powers. It allows the city to extend that public infrastructure without burdening your current taxpayers. It's a useful economic development tool that allows you to require annexation or higher standards than what you would normally have gotten. It also grows the city's tax base without giving up your sales tax or your property taxes. And again, oftentimes the city will see their infrastructure plans extended, whether it be roads or water or sewer. And so the way a PID works is, if you remember, it's just a geographic boundary that's created over a certain area. This one's already created. It was created in 2007. The assessments are placed on the property as each section develops. Whoa, I'll go this way then. The assessments can be paid in full or in annual installments. It's a lien that runs with the land, so we ensure that that lien is placed on the land while the developer still owns it. And so then it's only in second in priority to the property taxes. So it doesn't have the ability to be foreclosed on by like a mortgage holder. And then the assessments pay for tax exempt bonds, which is how they've been used in your previous improvement areas, but they can also be used to reimburse the developer via a reimbursement agreement. And so I'll talk about that in just a minute. And then any administrative costs to the city relative to the PID is paid for from assessments. So the administrative costs do not come back to the city or to the general fund. Just a reminder, while I'm the only person standing here this evening, your bond counsel had other council meetings, your FA had other council meetings, your city attorneys here, we're all working together and interfacing with the developer and their team, reviewing documents and ensuring that these components are moving forward in a manner that is acceptable by the AG's office if we go to issue bonds, but also in keeping with your policy and past procedures. So just reminders about PID debt. It's non-recourse to the city, so it's not backed by the full faith and credit of the city. It doesn't impact your bonding capacity. So if you issue debt over here for a PID, it doesn't eliminate your capacity to issue GOs and COs. It does impact your ability to issue a bank qualified debt from an interest rate standpoint, but your financial advisor is watching that, and there's language in the documents that were you to issue debt that would reduce your ability to issue bank qualified debt, you'd have a payment from the developer to cover that cost. And then again, we've talked about the creation administration, those are paid from the assessments. And we went through this a year or so ago when we were out here just talking to you about what the obligations were. So under a reimbursement agreement, you have the obligations to place the assessments on a bill to be collected and to provide that reimbursement back to the developer once they have spent the actual cost. When you have bonds involved, there's a few other responsibilities, primarily your annual issuer's disclosure, which is what you use anyway when you, or issue anyway when you do a GO or CO. We assist with all that, and so we're also facilitating the developers, I have too many words in my head, disclosures and getting those timely filed as well. So just a reminder where you are today. Again, this was created in 2007. It was a development agreement first, and then the zoning was approved. It encompassed the whole development agreement, and the PID encompasses 542 acres. In that zoning, there was over 1,000 single-family units that were approved, and then the PID was created later in 2007. So currently, you're still seeing it develop under the same parameters that were authorized in 2007. And so you had improvement area number 1, which is called phase 1, which is about 145 acres. Then phase 2 was 74 acres. That one issued bonds last year, if you recall. You just recently refunded your phase 1 bonds for some significant savings. And so we're here with phase 3, the 63 acres, and it's 185 single-family lots. And again, your open space will be determined at final plat filing. So those boxes that are gray, those have occurred in the past. They're already accomplished. We don't go back and redo those. But we are looking at, tonight, a resolution to determine the costs and call a public hearing, which is a statutory requirement to levy the assessments, and that's how we place that lien on the property. Your preliminary service and assessment plan, very large, in your packet, includes all your previous areas. So all the information that you already approved earlier in the year is captured here, but it also now adds in your improvement area number 3 information as well. That public hearing is not for any of the other improvement areas. It's only for improvement area number 1. We're not messing or changing any of the assessments related to the other improvement areas. And were you to agree and pass the resolution to call the public hearing October 27th at the next council meeting, we would conduct the public hearing, or you would conduct it, and then there would be an agenda item for an ordinance to approve that assessment, place that levy on the land. You would approve a final service and assessment plan. You'd also enter into a reimbursement agreement with the developer. Basically, that says if the developer spends those monies to build those pieces of infrastructure identified in your service and assessment plan, when the city collects those assessments, they will be reimbursed back to the developer. Excuse me. In the event that you issue bonds in the future, if we'll go ahead, which is something that's being contemplated on the first quarter of 2021, then that reimbursement agreement or a portion of it gets reimbursed to the developer in lump sum. I always get a tickle when I talk. So you have lots of documents that have to be created. Some have already been created. Primarily, you'll see your service and assessment plan in final form on the 27th, and then you'll see a reimbursement agreement between the city and the developer just for improvement area number 3. And then the other documents are documents that we help review related to developers' draws, county collection, county delinquency reports, things that we already perform on your behalf during the year. Oh, go ahead and hit it again. No, go ahead. So these are all the players, and these are all the documents that flow through all those players. So you see the interrelationship between your city team and your developer, your issuer, your underwriter, your trustee. And so there's quite a few documents and details that everyone's working together to make sure everyone's staying on the same page. And it's very much of a team effort to make sure it's understood how all the components are fitting together. So I'm happy to answer questions. Again, the developer is here, and they're available to answer questions as well.
Would you like me to go first? Okay. I think some of my questions are more for the developer, I think.
Sure.
If the developer could come forward, that'd be great. Hi.
I'm Rich Albert, and I represent the developer, Land Solutions. And I'm actually with Taylor Duncan, who's a partner with me.
You're the project manager for Sonoma Verde?
Yeah, it's kind of a team effort, yes.
Okay. Last year, was my first year on council.
Yeah,
and
I remember.
One thing that we were talking about last year was the baseball diamond.
Right.
What's the status of that?
The diamond, actually, it took a lot of dirt. We ended up having to fill the whole 9 acres. And we did seed it, and we irrigated it. And most of the grass, I would say probably 75% of the grass is coming up pretty good, but we had some tremendous rains this late spring, early summer, kind of washed it out, and we actually re-hydromulched probably 3 times, and we're going to do it again for the fall.
Okay.
We're going to oversee this time, we're going to oversee with rye with a little Bermuda in it, so that the rye grows very good in the winter time, so that we can open it up in the spring, you know. And when the grass is ready this spring, we'll put up the backstop for the small baseball field, and we'll put in. There's 2 soccer fields. One is a junior soccer field with smaller goals, and we'll put the goals in as well. So it will be usable probably April, May next year.
We've had some issues with the roads, primarily in Phase 1, and
Yeah.
we've had citizens, bring it to our attention. And I understand that you've been speaking with our city administrator about ways that we could work together to get those roads repaired, and we've got our engineer here as well. But
Right.
I guess y'all went out there and took a look at it.
I think Stephen and Dub walked it on Monday, I believe. Yeah,
Right,
they
if you
walked it
could
all.
give a little update on that.
Yeah, first of all, it is Phase 1 roads that were done in the Phase 1, paid with the previous developer. And just a couple of things, because I hear these things that the roads are failing because of the heavy traffic, trucks, et cetera. But, and Doug can probably attest to this, but residential roads are designed to handle that kind of traffic. If they weren't designed that way, every neighborhood in the Metroplex would be having serious problems. So it's not really the weight. The problem is, usually it's what's underneath the conditions underneath the streets. We had a lot of water over the last couple of years. It could have been drier when they built them. But what happens is they usually will raise a little bit in some areas. And I think we've seen that maybe on Bartola or something like that. It's raised a little bit, it starts cracking. And concrete can crack. It's held together by steel. But if the crack opens up and more water gets in, sometimes it will start to, I don't want to say fail, but, the concrete starts breaking up. We did, and at that point, any traffic on it, the trucks are thinking, it's going to increase the rate of it deteriorating. I know on the main entry, last year when we did Phase 2, we went and repaired some of the concrete just on our own. We just went and did it. We've been working with Lisa, and there are some issues on some of the roads. But, some of the issues like a Bartolo, there hasn't been a lot of traffic there lately at all because it's kind of on the interior. And yet those streets have risen, and there's an area there that has to be replaced. And what we, being good stewards and partners with the city, and it's our neighborhood as well as all the residents there. So we've committed to donate some money. And one of the donations is $100,000 that we would pay when we got receipt of the first payment of our reimbursement for Phase 3 that we're talking about tonight. And then we'll do another $100,000 when we do the following pit, which the way we're selling out there, it could be sooner than you think, because right now, we sold about 140 houses out there last year. And because of COVID came, the builders said, no, slow down because we don't expect sales. Well, sales took off. It's been crazy the last 6 months with sales. So we are behind now, so we have already started the development, and hopefully we'll be done by late spring, early summer next year, but we'll probably be starting the next one within 12 months of that. So we'll make that donation probably sometime May, June. And then the next donation probably 2 years later, $100,000 each. And I think, Doug, you've talked to Stephen a little bit about that. That should be sufficient to fix it. The first 100 should be sufficient to fix what's out there right now, and maybe some left over. And we're also willing, at the time, if we have pavers on the job, to work with the city, because we're going to put up a plant. A plant produces the concrete, and we might be able to get a better deal for the city. Together, for the cost and stretch that money a little further.
One thing that we're thinking about doing in discussions with the city administrator is putting signage at the front of Via Toscana and saying that this is for residential use.
Yes.
I mean, don't know how effective that'll be, but it'll be at least one
Well,
fail-safe.
One of the things that is good, the phase that the builders are building on now, 2A and 2B, you almost had to go through the center of to get to them. The other phases in the back, you don't have to do that. So there's no reason for construction traffic to go up past the amenity center and weave its way through. There's no way. Matter of fact, at that point in time, they can come in off of Edwards Road because we'll have 2 entrances on Edwards Road. It's going to be hard to guarantee that everybody would do that. But if they came in a roundabout and just went up the new road we have on the left side, that could go right up to 2B, and no traffic has to go through the main part of the subdivision.
Well, that would be great. That would be great.
Yeah,
if that-
so I'm hoping, traffic through phase 1, 2B, and 2A is pretty much minimal.
Please.
You state that the trucks can go in the back. What is it that you can do to make sure that's what they are being told to do?
Well-
I mean, what is it that you can do?
We can actually, we would tell the builders exactly what, the routes they have to take. The problem is that, they have numerous subcontractors. Not the same people come out delivering goods all the time, different drivers come out. All we can do is put the signs up like you said, and keep the pressure on them constantly.
But I mean, can you somehow make sure that that you are doing this? Because we do have residents that this is a huge concern for them.
Right.
And just, if you lived there, you would want to make sure that somebody is doing that.
No, we understand, and
That's going the extra effort.
we would actually give them maps, and we would probably, we'd monitor it for sure, and if we had to have bi-weekly meetings, we would do so. There's only 3 builders we're dealing with, so it's not like, it's 10, 8 builders that we have to deal with. And so we have a little more control of it, and they're actually pretty good builders. I think in the future we can control it a lot more. But like I said, I think we're going to get very hard on them. There's no reason for them to even go up that street by the amenity center or go through any of those things.
When you go to do this, is there any way that you can, whatever you send to them to explain where they need to go, can you send that to us too?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that way we can put it on our website should they need this. I mean, and not only that, but again, it just lets our citizens know that we are doing as much as we possibly can.
We'll provide construction map, a routing map, and then we'll send it to the city and Lisa, so you can see it.
I would like to see that happen. Also, do you guys have HOA meetings?
Yes, we just had one.
Okay.
Yeah.
How often do y'all have them?
We have to have them once a year.
Once a year?
Yes,
Okay. So your next one will be next year?
yes.
Is that with the public, or is that just with your board?
No, that's with the public. It's by document by state legislature. It's required once a year.
Did you have good turnout, good citizen turnout?
No, because of the COVID, it was on it was virtual. I think we had 40-ish people, which generally, I just, even last year, I think we had maybe 50 to 60. We have a lot of new homeowners. The new ones generally take about a year for them to come in and attend those things. But we do now have a program with the HOA where we have a lifestyle director now, and we're actually putting on programs with kids, adults, etc., which is, they'll have. If COVID wasn't around, they have bigger things like the Easter egg hunt, all these kind of things. They have things every week, every 2 weeks or whatever, which is very well received, and we think it's bringing the neighborhood together very well.
And how do you let your new residents know about these things?
There's a newsletter that goes out.
So you mail it to them?
No, it's emailed.
Okay, so you have everybody's email that is a new resident?
Yes, we do. And we also have a Facebook page. The HOA has a Facebook page, and we try to get everybody to sign up at that Facebook page because everything, even marketing, everything is put through that Facebook, okay? There are a couple private Facebook, pages out there that we don't advise to join. People should just go to this where they can get all the information. But there's a newsletter that's sent out, and I think it's sent out bi-weekly. Sent out bi-weekly to all the residents.
Okay. So when you mentioned the roads, how you guys are kind of figuring out that it's what's under the roads that are,
Well, generally, what I'm saying is generally I would say that's generally the issue. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what's under the roads that did it. I would say probably water is probably the biggest culprit. We have soils here that you were just talking about it with the firehouse. Yeah, you're getting your soils tested, and North Texas, pretty expensive soils.
so with the new roads that are being put in, or is everything already put in?
No, the new roads, well, phase 2 is all done.
Okay.
And we drove phase 2, and it's pretty, in very good shape, okay?
And that's still under warranty, I understand.
That's still under warranty. It's a 2-year warranty, but it's in very good shape.
But are you learning from what has gone on previously to maybe make the roads better? The next-
There are certain things that we did in the subdivision that they did not do. Let me put it that. We moisturize everything up front. And when I say that, I'm talking about all the lots, et cetera. So what we're doing is when you add water to the soil and you compact it, theoretically it shouldn't expand anymore. Okay, and then you can build a house on it. Well, that being all done in a correct way around the streets protects the streets as well. Okay, so we think that we shouldn't have, and we've been developing lots for 30 years, 40 years here, and we think that we don't cut any corners, and we're actually moisturizing 7 to 10 feet in some places. 7 to 10 feet where we actually dig the soil out and replace it with water and compact it as it goes down. So we are doing things. Probably in the streets, they're probably the same, but if you moisturize everything around it, that water will not go down and into the streets.
When you guys have people that close on your lots and stuff, do you guys really explain the PID to these people, and so that they understand? I know that they sign papers, but they sign so many papers.
Well, the salespeople are trained, okay? And we do have the disclosures, and I think P3 does help us with the disclosures. And, we have seasoned salespeople out there, and we have not heard of any complaints or anything in that area. So people are very well aware of the PID, and it seems to be...
Do you have that on your website also, just an explanation of it?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's on the HOA website, but I would check, Yeah, I don't know, because it's usually done at the point of sale of the home.
Well, and the reason I'm even asking is just because we do get those questions.
Yeah.
We do get all of that.
Are you getting those questions that I may ask from the newer homeowners, or?
Some of them are.
Some of them?
Yeah, some of them had no clue.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's interesting. We'll certainly make that known to our builders that they're not, doing a very good job then in really explaining.
And again, some people just don't understand, which, it's
Yeah.
taken me a while to figure this out, but I think maybe if you, went a little extra,
Well,
or not sure the
what we
answer
will
is.
do is I think we'll get and check exactly, besides the disclosure, whether they have a thorough explanation in writing that the people can take and go home and kind of, explain. Even though the intricacies of it is difficult, the financial part of it, but it's really, what you pay and everything. It's not that hard, to explain it properly.
And it's explained on, because I think that's another thing, is that I think there's some confusion on what the PID pays for, and things like that. I think that might be a
Yes.
little bit,
Yeah, because that could, for our own sake, that could go the wrong way, because we're just reimbursed for the city, basically the city improvements, the sewer, the water, the streets. And, you know, I've gotten questions about the amenity center. Anything we spend on the amenity center, the ball field, no, we're not getting any of that money back, you know. It's strictly the infrastructure of everything that's given to the city, dedicated to the city.
Lisa, is there paperwork on the sewer and how that actually, in the beginning, how it works, and, I mean, taps and stuff like that? Do we have any paperwork on all that?
I mean, I don't really have a fact sheet out there, but we can certainly create something if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, just something that kind of helps maybe explain, you know, like how that sewer system was meant to be. In other words, with businesses or anything like that. I just heard, you know, questions on who can actually tap into it and who can't, and what, I mean.
I bet that Mary from P3 we can kind of come up with a fact sheet, and we can probably include some information on
Okay.
how that infrastructure gets turned over to the city at the time that we accept it. We can probably come up with some kind of a short and sweet kind of set of facts, maybe that might be helpful.
And if we could put that on our city website and then maybe give it to you guys so you could put it on your HOA,
Sure.
would that be, I think that would be very helpful to kind of answer a bunch of questions that are,
Right.
nobody seems to really have the correct
Right.
answers.
And each of the builders do pay an impact, you know, a fee to tap into that sewer to the city, you know, and to the water company.
I'm sorry, I've got so many questions for you, and I apologize. I'm trying to do the best I can. We have recently had a water issue in our area. We were told that you guys use a tremendous amount of water on your, I'm not sure what you're using
On
now.
our earthwork,
Yes.
which is basically just about complete, right? It's probably 90% complete. Yes, they do use a lot of water because just what I was telling you before, they moisturize it as it goes in so that it's put in properly. Yes.
But also your gardens, or, I'm not sure, but.
Well, yeah, it's what goes with the good and the bad, you know. Obviously, everybody wants to have vegetation and green belts and everything else, yes, so there is water used. Now, there was probably during the summer more water used than will be next year just because of the watering in those fields. You know, you put seed down, you have to water, you know, at least every 3 days or whatever. But that will not happen next year. Once it's established, you know, even this winter, we'll cut back the watering greatly. So, yeah, we did spend more water for the HOA. We did spend more water than we did last year, but that should come back down.
Because we were in a little pickle after having to boil our water, so. Yeah, I think I'm good.
And if you have future HOA meetings and you would like to have someone from our city staff or someone from our pit administrator or even someone from council come and participate in that, we're offering our services up for that if you would find that it would be helpful.
Okay. No, we did, like I said, we had our meeting, and I could tell you, we had probably 40 questions. Not one was about the pit. But, you know, so not saying they're not asking about the pit, I
Right.
understand
Right.
that, but
Well,
there was not one for
I
about
can
the
give
pit.
you some screenshots on it.
No, I believe you, believe me.
It's out there.
I totally believe you, but of the people who were there and provided questions, there was no pit questions.
Well, I just feel like there's a ton of misinformation. And I believe that there's just a bunch of questions that people just truly don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody's gonna, you know, I don't really.
Well, and P3 can do a good job with the city,
Yeah.
but, you know, we can do a disclosure that's probably a little more informative than just what was basically done.
All right, who would I follow up with on that then, on getting that information?
You can follow with me if you like.
Can I give your email whenever this is over?
I'll give you my card before I leave.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, do you have any questions? Okay, for council, we have before us the developer, we have the
Thank you.
pit administrator, the city financial advisor, our attorney, our engineer. Does anyone have any questions for any of them before we move on to the next item, as this was just to be a discussion.
Do you mind if I ask our city engineer a question?
Sure.
Doug, can you address something for me? We talked about maybe having the funds to replace some of these road sections, maybe next spring. Can they wait, in your opinion, until then? Are there safety issues?
Oh, I think they can wait.
They can wait.
Yeah, it would probably take that long to get geared up to do it anyway, because we've got to isolate and lay it out on which areas and how much of the areas we want to take out.
Okay, so at this point, it's an aesthetic issue, but not necessarily a safety
That's
one.
exactly right.
Thank you.
Anything else, Lisa? Okay, we're going to move on to item 6.3, and it's a long one, so I have a lot to read. Discussion and action regarding a resolution determining the costs of improvement area number 3 improvements to be financed by the Sonoma Verde Public Improvement District, approving a preliminary amended and restated service and assessment plan updated for improvement area number 3, including a proposed assessment roll for improvement area number 3 of Sonoma Public Improvement District, directing the filing of the proposed assessment roll with the city secretary to make available for public inspection, and calling for noticing a public hearing set for October 27, 2020, to consider an ordinance levying assessments on property located within improvement area number 3 of the Sonoma Public Improvement District, directing city staff to publish and mail notice of said public hearing, and resolving other matters incident and relating thereto, and providing an effective date. Is there a motion to approve?
Acting Mayor, I'd like to propose a motion for 6.3.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? I'd call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay, no one. Okay, so we'll be filing the notice and calling for the public hearing set for October 27th. Item 6.4, appointment of alternates to the Economic Development Committee requested by City Secretary Green. Shelley, can you give us a quick summary of the two applicants?
Yes, Tim. We have two openings on the Economic Development Committee. They're both alternate committee members. We received two applications, one from Christian, I don't know how to say his name.
Giadalor?
And he's here, and we'd like to ask questions for him. And then one from Danny Artis. So we do two appointments. We were confused tonight, and we will get this committee at the full statement.
Do I have a motion to appoint the two alternates to the Economic Development Committee?
Acting Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint two alternates to the EC Board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No, I'm looking forward to having a full slate.
Thank you for volunteering.
Thank you.
Would take a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Welcome. Item 6.5, discussion and action designating an official newspaper and an alternate official newspaper for required notices. This was requested by Ms. Green.
I may put your name on it. This is routine. We do this every year, so we're supposed to designate an official newspaper. We typically do it right after we approve the budget. We don't have a lot of choices, so we use the Rockwell Herald banner for most things. Occasionally, the deadlines just don't work because they only publish once a week. Tonight is a good example. That resolution will actually have to be published in the Dallas Morning News, and then we'll also publish it in our Rockwell Herald banner. So we have an official paper and then an alternate official paper.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Acting Mayor, I'd like to make a motion designating the official and the secondary newspaper for required notices.
Do I have a second?
I'll Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.6, discussion and action regarding consideration of letter of engagement with Murray, Paschal, and Caperton, P.C. for auditing City of McLendon-Chisholm financial statements for fiscal year 2019 to 2020 for a price not to exceed $15,000. Requested by Ms. Palumbo.
Yes, we like to go ahead and get the auditor engaged so we can get on their schedule. They're not necessarily going to start work immediately. It may be November, sometimes even the first part of December before they can get started, but we like to go ahead and secure their services. We did budget this amount of money. We got some quotes, and Murray, Pascal, and Caperton seem to be the less expensive than anyone else can come close to.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Acting Mayor, I'd like to make a motion with a letter of engagement to Murray Pascal and Chappleton PC for auditing the City of McLendon-Chisholm financial statements fiscal year 2019-2020, the price not to exceed $15,000.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah. Lisa, is this the same firm that has audited any of our books in the past?
Yes, they've actually audited for us for several years now.
Were those years done in a row,
Yes.
or was there any breakup in time?
No, all together.
Um,
We did send out requests for proposals, I think it was year before last, a formal one, and the prices just weren't practical for us. They were about double.
About double?
About double. So at that time, council decided to stay with them. We do look, whenever we bring something to you, we at least go out and we look and ask questions, and the prices I'm finding were at least $25,000 versus the $15,000 here. We could certainly go out and do it an RFQ if you prefer that. But I think you're going to be over your budget limit.
Well, I think if Lisa's comfortable with this company, I would suggest that they do it.
How many years have they done this for us? Do you remember?
I'd have to get back to you on it. Since I've been here, they've been here, so at least 3 to 4, probably a little longer.
What would it take for an RFQ or RFP?
We've written one before, so we really just need to update it and we can advertise it.
And tell me the timeline.
I could get it in the paper during the next publications, so out in the next couple of weeks, and we can see what comes back if that's what you like.
I'd like to see that. And even if they've done good work for us in the past, my worry is using them for so long becomes almost the routine for them. Where I'm not saying that they're going to overlook things, but sometimes it's good to have some fresh eyes if the prices are competitive. If the prices are competitive. I want to be fiscally responsible with it, but at the same time, if there is someone out there that has a similar price point, fresh eyes, I wouldn't.
So I guess we need to vote on the motion and then give further direction to staff. Okay. So we need to vote it down first and then, or can we amend
I
it?
can amend the motion.
Well, there's a motion on the table, make a second.
Yeah.
At that point, make a vote. If you can withdraw the motion, you can do that. But once you've got a motion made, seconded, that then you can withdraw.
Draw or you want to vote?
Either way, no matter what happens, even if it's a no vote, you can still make direction to do RFPs.
Okay.
Acting Mayor, I want to withdraw my motion from the floor, and I would like to make a new motion that we direct direction of staff to put out RFQ for city financial auditor.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'd like to second that. Can we discuss it all?
Yeah,
or-
we can discuss now.
Lisa, do you know if, I mean, all companies change, employees every once in a while.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and sometimes, when they change, it gives a fresh set of eyes.
Oh, absolutely. And it's actually a best practice to change up things once in a while.
Yeah.
And we did look at it. It was just cost prohibitive is all. We just couldn't see paying double at the time. But it never hurts to go and look.
But
And they will certainly understand that.
Right.
Would the RFQ affect our, their stated price currently? Or does it-
I don't think they would change it on us. We'd certainly send them the notice that we were going to put this out and invite proposals, and then we'd ask them to submit one as well. And they more than likely will submit what they have here. I suppose they could change it if they wanted to.
But sometimes when you do that, I mean, when you go back to the same people, it's almost like you're not really getting even your 15,000 worth because they're just kind of doing what they've done before. So, I mean, it might be worth spending the extra money just to,
Well, the books are looked at every year. They'll pull random items. I never know exactly what they're going to pull for the audit. They will come up with a list, and Shelley will pull documents, I'll pull documents, the accountant may have to give documents, the bank may have to give documents, but they're kind of, sometimes they always ask for ordinances, they always ask for council directives for the year, they'll look at our budget, but as far as other items, they're just kind of randomly selected over what they will pull. They may not look at every single thing, but they will random tell us what they need to look at. It may differ every year a little bit. They also perform the audit for the PID, and that it's not really a separate audit anymore. It's part of our city audit, but that does add an additional element that some firms may not want to, they may charge more for.
So we see what we get.
Any other questions? I think we take a vote now. All those in favor of putting out an RFQ for the letter of engagement for the audit of the city of McLendon-Chisholm for FY 2019-2020, aye, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Item 6.7, discussion and action for approval of utilizing fire capital replacement funds for purchasing replacement self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA bottles, expiring this year, and for vehicle upgrades to Command 1 and Squad 1, not to exceed $17,000. This item was requested by Chief Simmons.
Good evening, council. Yeah, we've had a couple items, we do have some bottles, we actually have 20 bottles in the next 2 years. So what we've done is we decided to purchase 10 bottles this year, and then next year we'll purchase additional 10 bottles, so it's going to be like, so we reach the lifespan, so we're to get those replaced. We do have some things on Command 1, we may have to purchase some suspension stuff. Issues with the box, if you turn the seal back up and apart, so we're just going to try to repair it, we can do away with that box, so we can back to work. Use the data. Squad 1, we're going to increase some of the lighting on. We're going to utilize that vehicle at nighttime for bad accidents. We're going to have 2 vehicles on scene now for scene safety. Add some additional scene lighting. I put 17,000 on there. Do not expect to hit that mark. Expect to go from the other. Make sure that we're efficient.
What's the cost for the breathing apparatus?
About 11,000.
And did you have that in the budget for this year?
What's the lifespan with the hydrostatic testing?
We went out 10 years. So we do need a lot of them. So next year we'll have 10 years. They expire this year, so we're still good. Once they expire.
So when is the expiration? At the end of this year?
End of this year. So we'll replace them.
And they last for 10 years?
Correct.
And where did you,
Again, this is government capital budget fund balance that council is using.
and where did you get the 17? No, 17,000.
So based on the models, 11, 12,000 for that, and some estimated costs when it comes to the lights and the flags and the squad. A few minor upgrades to make it more utility for the cost of that required mass light with regard to the repairing the camper on Land 1 and the suspension repairs for replacing the camper.
So each of those bottles cost about $1,000?
You know, I think I'd like to see a price breakout worksheet at the next meeting before we just approve it, if that's all right.
Sure.
And the impact of the vehicle repairs, so price out those vehicle repairs / improvements. The lights, like is that a state law, or is that just something that, for safety? Okay, yeah, if you could provide us with a cross breakout worksheet, I think that would be helpful. Yeah. So I think we're going to table the approval at this point. I guess I need to make a motion for that. Table to the next meeting, the 27th.
So the table for itemization worksheet,
Yep.
But Chief, you're good until the end of the month with those
Sure.
bottles.
The price on there, I'm just gonna go off the rest of the numbers and the unknowns, so obviously it didn't hold anything,
But you don't need the bottles until December?
No, we don't need to do that.
Okay.
We don't need to do that.
Okay, just
So-
wanted to make sure.
on those bottles, are those 4,000 PSI bottles? 4,500. Do you guys currently have pumping apparatus to fill them, or are just send off?
No, so we got it.
And they get hydrostatic tested for alcohol problems?
No, sir. Not long time.
And the fill station apparatus, is that going to be utilized in the new station?
Right. We will do that.
Any other questions? Okay, move on to number 7, council member reports and announcements. Ms. Westner?
I'm beginning the Christmas holiday season. I got some questions for you, Lisa. Have you heard if there's going to be anybody, the red hat, have you heard of what you normally have been done here? Is anybody booking anything?
Well,
or-
we haven't to date really, since COVID allowed people to book the room for anything other than city-related items. So I haven't heard from them, but we have turned down a few groups in the last couple of months, just trying to, we feel like we have to deep clean every single time, and we've got to pay for that. So we kind of try to limit the room to official city use or related. Chief held some training here and some things, but that was needed. But as far as having additional groups in, we've really tried to keep it to a minimum.
Okay. So if I were to start setting up in November, do you see any reason, or do I need to hide stuff or cover it up, or you don't know if,
Because people might come in here, is that what you're saying, or? I don't think we planned on opening the room up for general use, just because we're still being cautious, so I wouldn't expect so.
Just have it after the election. And after the council meeting,
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is
the 10th.
the 10th? Okay, so I can start setting up after the 10th, you think?
I think so. I think so. Chief, we were talking about keeping the room use still limited. We haven't really talked openly in council about that, but since COVID, we've really limited the use of this room just so we can cut down on the number of times we have to come in here and deep clean this. So, you know, I haven't really. Well, we haven't really discussed it with council as a whole, but we haven't really changed the policy or, since it started. Do you anticipate that we need to open it back up or?
At this point, I think we at least follow the recommendation from the government, take it back up to 75%, so the person just hold it at home. Usually what we do when somebody uses this room, we close this session off and make it to 50 years. So we have to at least jump in and start allowing them to that percentage based on what's being passed on to businesses and bars and restaurants like that. I don't see the need for us to close it unless council feels that that's good to do.
Florida and Tennessee
Are
they better than us?
We did talk just amongst ourselves and staff about perhaps we need to implement some sort of a cleaning fee afterwards. Normally, we have just a refundable deposit if everything's left in good order, but due to COVID, we feel like we need to come in here and clean immediately after and
And we actually have a device that we use for the station for the trucks for all of it. So it's just ACDA put that with the spray rig to do it, that will carry the deep bottom to it. It's dry. It's off it up. If it's used, then obviously that next day, we would have the gear bottom and spray it. It's a simple process.
it would be a minimal fee just to kind of cover the supplies needed to pay for that. We'd have to bring that to you as an adjustment.
Well, I think you just build into the policy for using the room that you have a non-refundable set amount, whatever you determine that it is. As long as it's posted to the person or the organization that wants to use the facility, they understand that they're not going to get part of their money back.
Do we need to vote on whether or not I need to do the Santa thing, or?
It's currently
No, I don't mean vote now, but I mean, do I need to put it on the next agenda to even talk about doing the Santa?
probably the direction of staff.
I think it probably would be best to have it as an agenda item, not necessarily for a vote, but at least for discussion. And then as a group, you can decide if you want to hold the event or to what extent you want to have an event.
Right, I think putting that on the next agenda would be good.
So let's do
And then
that.
if you have details you want to give me in advance, we can certainly include that in the packet.
Would you have the deep clean rate available at that time as well? So that way
Chief and I can talk about that. I don't know that it's going to be a lot. I just want to make sure we cover whatever expenses we have is all it is.
That would allow us to be able to finish that. Maintain use of Great City Hall.
We can figure that and we can bring it back to you as a little, put it on the fee schedule or put it as a policy, whatever we need to do.
Anything else, Trudy? Okay, Will?
No, just excited about the EC meeting that's coming up on Monday, and have new people there. So it's nice to see the growth of that.
That's great.
We got a large pool of people to pull from for building it up, so I'm happy with that.
And the only thing I have is that we did get our bricks back from our brick maker for the brick campaign, so we will have those installed for the Veterans Day ceremony, which is going to be on the 11th at 11 a.m. We'll be outdoors. We won't be using this room, so we won't need to worry about the cleaning. Anything else? If not, meeting is adjourned at 7:39. Thank you.